Is there someone in your life that every time you are near you leave exhausted? You cannot explain why. The conversation seems normal, the encounter seems peaceful, but when you arrive home, you are destroyed, without energy, irritated, empty, as if they had sucked something from inside of you. And the worst, this person smiles at you, says they love you, says they are on your side. They make a point of appearing in the moments when you are well, in the moments when you are growing, in the moments when you have something to offer. I need to tell you something that no one has told you yet. This is not a coincidence. This is not a personality incompatibility. This has a name, and it has a very specific spiritual reason for happening exactly to you. People who are in the process of spiritual awakening, people who carry a particular light, a purpose of transformation, automatically become targets for those who operate through energetic vampirism. And these vampires are almost never strangers. They are close people. Sometimes they are from the family, sometimes they are friends of years, sometimes they are colleagues of work or of faith. Today I'm going to reveal to you how to identify who is pretending to love you to suck your vital energy. How this works from the spiritual point of view and from the point of view of neuroscience, and what God wants you to do with this. Stay until the end, because in the middle of this video, I will reveal the most subtle and most dangerous sign of all, the one that most people never perceive until they have already lost years of life to it. Before anything else, I need to ask you something directly. Have you already passed through this? You were in a very good moment of your life, an achievement, a phase of clarity, a deeper spiritual connection, and then, suddenly, a specific person appeared, not necessarily with apparent bad intention. They appeared with a problem to tell you, with an urgent demand, with a situation that needed your attention now. And you, who are a generous person and of good heart, stopped what you were doing and went to help. And after that, your moment went away. The energy went away. The flow was interrupted. If this has already happened to you more than twice with the same person, pay attention, because a pattern is not an accident. Spirituality and psychology agree that there exist people who, in a conscious or completely unconscious way, develop an energetic dependence on individuals with a higher vibration. They cannot generate their own internal balance, so they seek this balance from the outside. And whoever has light, whoever has presence, whoever has peace, becomes a source of feeding for this imbalance. This has a name in modern psychology. It is the pattern of the emotional vampire. And in spiritual tradition, especially in Afro-Brazilian traditions, in Spiritism, and in various branches of Western esotericism, this is understood as energetic vampirism or astral parasitism. I'm not talking about horror movies. I'm talking about something that happens in family dinners, in WhatsApp groups, in work meetings. It happens in the living room of your house with people you call by name. Let us enter into the signs. And I want you to think of someone specific while I speak. You do not need to name them, but bring a person to mind and observe how many of these signs fit. The first sign is selective fatigue. You can spend the entire day working, taking care of children, solving problems, and still have energy at the end of the day. But there is a specific person with whom, after 30 minutes of conversation, you feel as if you had run a marathon. This is not subjective, this is measurable in your body. Attention to the tiredness that is not proportional to what was demanded. The second sign is the crisis cycle. Every time you're at a positive peak, this person enters into crisis. It is always at the most inopportune moment. It is always when you have the least conditions to help without harming yourself. And when your good phase passes, their crisis passes as well. This happens repeatedly, with almost surgical consistency. Because at the energetic level, this person is calibrated to your field. They perceive, often in a completely unconscious way, when you are full, and they will seek. The third sign is the incapacity for reciprocity. This is one of the most revealing. You think of this person, send a message asking how they are, appear when they need. But when it is you who are down, this person vanishes, minimizes, changes the subject, or worse yet, transforms your moment of pain into an opportunity to speak about themselves. There is no balance of exchange, because energetic vampirism is unidirectional by nature. The fourth sign is criticism disguised as care. This person says things that diminish you with a smile on their face. They ask questions that seem like concern, but that carry a needle of doubt inside them. Are you sure it will work out? Don't you think you're going too fast? Careful not to delude yourself. In spiritual tradition, this has a name. It is the conscious or unconscious fat eye. It is the attempt to reduce your vibration to the level of theirs so that the difference between you decreases. Because the difference in vibration is what generates the energetic discomfort in the vampire. And the fifth sign, the most dangerous and the one I promise to reveal, is performative gratitude. This is the one that deceives everyone, especially spiritually sensitive people and those of good heart. This person thanks you too much, says that you changed their life, says that they don't know what would become of them without you, says that you are the most special person they know, and each time they do this, you feel responsible for them. You feel that it would be cruel to move away, that it would be ingratitude of yours not to continue available. This is a trap, because excessive gratitude creates an emotional obligation that traps you in the role of source. And while you are trapped in this role, your own life stays in the background. You are so busy feeding the field of this person that you have no energy to feed your own purpose. Now tell me, did you recognize someone, perhaps more than one person? If you are feeling a weight in your chest now, this weight is recognition. And recognition is the beginning of liberty. Before continuing, since you have arrived here, do one thing for yourself. Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. The content that we deliver here is exactly for those who are disposed to see what is hidden in their life and do something different from that. Now I need to explain to you why this happens to you specifically. Why it is not with everyone. Why exactly you become the target. The answer is deeper than most imagine. Within neuroscience, there exists a concept called mirror neurons. They are cells in our brain that allow us to feel what the other is feeling. It is the biological mechanism of empathy. People with a system of mirror neurons more active than the average are, by nature, more sensitive to the emotional field of the other. They capture the internal state of the people around with a precision that goes beyond words. This is an extraordinary gift, but it is also a vulnerability when this person does not have well-established energetic frontiers. From the spiritual point of view, people with a high level of empathy and vibratory sensitivity are called sensitives, empaths, or, in some traditions, passive incorporation mediums. What this means in practice is that the energetic field of these people is porous. It absorbs what is around before any conscious evaluation. When a person with a porous field and elevated vibration enters into contact with someone who is in energetic imbalance, the field of imbalance automatically begins to feed on the field of balance. It is a physical law, moreover. Thermodynamics teaches that heat flows from the hotter body to the colder one until there is equilibrium. In the energetic field, it works in an analogous way. The problem is that the person who is yielding energy does not perceive what is happening consciously. They only perceive the tiredness afterward, the irritation without motive, the inexplicable emptiness. And the person who is sucking does not always know what they are doing. In many cases, this is completely unconscious. They genuinely believe they love you, genuinely believe that the relation is balanced, because they are, at the level of the ego, convinced that affection exists there. And it exists. Energetic vampirism does not exclude affection. It coexists with it. And it is exactly for this reason that it is so difficult to identify and to liberate oneself. But there exists a level beyond the ego where the dynamic is clear. And it is at this level that God operates. I need to speak about something that can be uncomfortable for some people, but it is necessary, because without understanding this, the solution makes no sense. Why does God permit that people of light be targets? This question appears at some moment in the life of any person who is on a spiritual path. You do good, you seek to grow, you try to live with integrity, and even so, it seems that the greatest drains of your life come precisely from the relations where you most invested love. The answer lies in a much more sophisticated understanding of spiritual functioning than popular religion normally offers. Serious spiritual tradition, whether in Kardecist spiritism, whether in Eastern traditions, whether in Jewish Kabbalah, whether in indigenous and Afro-Brazilian traditions, teaches that real spiritual growth always happens in confrontation, not in comfort. The souls that came to grow are placed exactly in the contexts that will challenge the points where illusion still exists. And the greatest illusion of people of high heart is the following: that to love means to be always available, that to care means never to place limits, that to be spiritual is to endure what hurts in silence. God does not want this from you. No serious spiritual tradition teaches this. What the traditions teach is discernment. It is love with wisdom. It is the compassion that does not destroy itself to save the other. The target that you represent for the betrayer is not a divine punishment. It is a proof of development. And the proof is not for you to endure. The proof is for you to learn to see with clarity and act with courage. Because to maintain oneself as an unlimited source for whoever drains your energy is not virtue. It is absence of self-knowledge. And this, on the spiritual path, is what needs to be developed. There exists a concept in Brazilian Spiritism that very few people understand in depth, even those who call themselves spiritists of long standing. It is the concept of spiritual obsession, and I am not speaking of dramatic possession as in movies. I am speaking of energetic influence that happens in common relations of the daily life. Chico Xavier, in his books, especially those he wrote with the orientation of the Spirit Emmanuel, described with precision something that he called spiritual parasitism in human relations. Relations where a less developed soul attaches itself energetically to a more developed one, not out of malice necessarily, but out of lack, out of imbalance, out of lack of own spiritual resources. This connection establishes itself through bonds created by affection, by guilt, by obligation, or by karmic debts between the souls. And it sustains itself as long as the more developed soul permits, through the lack of discernment, or through what spirituality calls spiritual pride, which is the belief that you need to save the other because you are capable of it. The cure does not come from isolating oneself from the world, nor from treating every person with distrust. It comes from what the traditions call loving discernment, to see what is with clarity and choose with wisdom, without judgment of the other, but with responsibility for oneself. Stay with me, because now we are going to enter the part that matters most: how to protect oneself, how to liberate oneself, and how to transform this dynamic without needing to destroy relations or create enemies. Like this video now if you are feeling that this content is arriving at a specific moment of your life, because when a content arrives at the right hour, it is not coincidence, it is direction. Let us speak about the solution, and it has 3 stages that need to be applied in this order. The first stage is recognition without judgment. Most people, when they begin to perceive that they are being drained energetically by someone close, have one of 2 extreme reactions. The first is total denial. It cannot be this. They love me. He has problems, but deep down is a good person. And they continue exposing themselves without any protection. The second reaction is demonization. This person is evil. They are destroying me on purpose. They are sent by evil. And then they cut the bond with anger, which is the worst possible fuel for this situation. Both reactions are wrong, and both perpetuate the energetic bond. Recognition without judgment means, I see what is happening, I recognize the pattern, not because the person is a monster, but because this is their current pattern, result of their history, of their wounds, of their level of development at this moment. I recognize this without needing to agree with it, and without needing to destroy myself trying to fix it. This internal positioning already changes the energetic field of the relation, because you leave the role of passive victim and enter the role of conscious observer. And energetic vampirism does not sustain itself with efficiency when the source becomes an observer. The dynamic begins to change. The second stage is the establishment of real frontiers. I am not speaking of aggressive frontiers, I am speaking of honest frontiers. In simple Portuguese, learning to say no, learning not to be available 24 hours a day, learning to end conversations when you feel that your field is being drained, without needing to explain, without needing to justify yourself for hours, without needing to feel guilt for it. Guilt is the principal tool that energetic vampirism uses to keep you trapped. You feel responsible for the emotional state of the other. You feel that if you are not available, the person will suffer, will get hurt, will fall. And this keeps you in the position of source, even against your own will and health. But here is a spiritual truth that will cost you something to accept. You are not responsible for the spiritual development of anyone. You can be an instrument of love. But instrument does not mean slave. Instrument means someone who, with integrity and wisdom, provides a service that is within their real possibilities, without self-destructing in the process. Jesus, who in the Christian tradition is the maximum model of love, had clear frontiers. He did not heal everyone all the time. He withdrew to pray alone. He distinguished who sought genuine growth from who wanted only miracles without interior transformation. He loved deeply and at the same time knew how to say that his role there had reached the end. Frontiers are not the opposite of love. They are the condition for love to be sustainable. The third stage is the intentional recharge of your own field. And here is a point that many spiritually active people neglect completely. You take care of other people. You are present for those who need. You pray. You help. But when was the last time you did something specifically to recharge your own energetic field? I am not speaking of a spa or a weekend of rest, although that also helps. I am speaking of practices that feed specifically your connection with yourself and with the divine. Meditation, prayer, time in silence, in nature, without a cell phone, without demands. Contact with people who elevate you instead of draining you. Creative activities that make you feel alive. In traditional Chinese medicine, there exists the concept of qi, which is the vital energy that permeates every living being. When the qi is full, the organism is resistant to external invasions, whether physical or energetic. When the qi is low, vulnerability increases. Energetic vampirism takes advantage exactly of moments of low qi. To maintain your energetic field full is not a luxury. It is protection. It is spiritual health. Now I want to bring you something that goes beyond techniques, because the deepest side of all this is not about pushing away vampires. It is about understanding what their presence is teaching about you. Every draining relation that installs itself in your life remained because you permitted it, not out of weakness, out of something more complex, perhaps out of fear of solitude, perhaps out of a belief that you do not deserve balanced relations, perhaps out of a pattern learned in childhood that you only have value when you are being useful, perhaps out of guilt of a spiritual nature, a real karmic debt with that soul that keeps you trapped in a cycle of excessive care. Each of these reasons is a window into yourself, and it is there that the gift of God is hidden in this difficult situation. Think like this. God did not place this draining person in your life to punish you. He placed them to reveal exactly the point where you have not yet learned to love yourself enough to protect yourself. The betrayer is the mirror. The vampire is the teacher. Not because they deserve credit for the damage they cause, but because the damage they cause is only possible where there exists a breach that you have not yet closed in yourself. To close this breach is the work, and this work is what will change not only this specific relation, but the pattern as a whole. Because when you learn to protect yourself for real, when you elevate your level of self-knowledge and self-care, you automatically cease to attract vampires in quantity and intensity. Not because the world changed, because you changed, and your energetic field changed, and what approaches you passes to reflect this new level. This is law, it works always. I want to tell you about a dynamic that I find repeatedly in people who are passing through a process of spiritual awakening in Brazil. A dynamic that is so common it almost seems like a script. The person begins to grow spiritually, begins to know themselves better, begins to develop practices, begins to have concrete results in health, in relations, in career. And then, in the middle of this process, a very close person begins to present a silent resistance. They do not criticize openly, but they begin to create situations that demand the presence and the energy of the one who is growing, as if the growth of the other were a threat. Sometimes it is the spouse who begins to fall ill repeatedly. Sometimes it is the adult son who enters into crisis every time the mother tries to have time for herself. Sometimes it is the friend of years who begins to need constant attention exactly when you are in a process of expansion. This is not ill-intentioned in most cases. It is the system in resistance, because when you change, the system around feels instability, and instability generates movements of compensation to try to re-establish the old equilibrium. The old equilibrium was you smaller, you more available, you less centered in yourself. The resistance to your growth is, paradoxically, a confirmation that you are growing. It should not make you stop. It should make you continue, with more clarity and with more firmness. And write in the comments, have you already lived a situation like this? A close person who in a subtle way always appeared to drain you exactly in your best moments. Tell how it was. Because reading about this is different from knowing that you are not alone in this. There exists a prayer that some spiritual traditions use specifically for energetic protection in relations. I am not going to give you a ready-made prayer, because the most powerful prayer is the one that comes out of your own heart with real intention. But I will give you the structure of what to ask. First, ask for discernment. Ask to see with clarity the relations that are feeding you and those that are draining you, not to create paranoia, but to have clarity of field. Second, ask for courage. Because placing frontiers will generate reaction. The person who was feeding on you will not be happy when the source begins to close. They may react with manipulation, with judgment, with accusation that you changed, that you became cold, that you do not love them anymore. You will need courage not to retreat out of guilt. Third, ask for protection. Every spiritual tradition has forms of protecting the energetic field. In Spiritism, Psalm 91 is very utilized. In Afro-Brazilian traditions, there exists an entire practice of personal protection with baths, prayers, and specific works. In the Christian tradition, the armor of God described in Ephesians is a reference of energetic protection. In Buddhist meditation, there exists metta, the practice of sending love to all while maintaining oneself centered in one's own field. Use what resonates with your tradition. What matters is the intention and the consistency of the practice. And fourth, ask for genuine love. Because the solution is not to hate the vampire, it is to not become the source. You can have compassion for a person and at the same time not let yourself be sucked by them. Compassion with safe distance is one of the most advanced forms of love that exists. Before closing, I need to tell you something about you, about who you are that makes of you a specific target for this type of dynamic. If you are watching this video, if this content arrived to you in some way, it is because you carry something real, a sensitivity, a depth, a capacity of perception that is not common. And this, in the energetic world, has a weight. It has a luminosity that attracts. I am not flattering you. I am alerting you with love. Because light attracts light, but light also attracts what is in the dark seeking heat. And you need to be wise enough to distinguish who came to walk with you and who came to warm themselves at your expense. God did not give you this sensitivity so that you would destroy yourself being the source for everyone. He gave you this sensitivity so that you would use it with wisdom, discernment, and purpose, so that you would be capable of identifying where genuine love is and where the trap of performative love is. The chosen one is not the one who suffers most. The chosen one is the one who learns to use the gift with spiritual intelligence. And you can be this chosen one. But for that, you need to stop treating your energetic field as an unlimited community resource. It is yours. It is sacred. And it needs to be protected with the same seriousness with which you protect your health, your money, your time. We have reached the final point of this video, and I want to leave with you a question that will remain after you close this screen. Who in your life at this exact moment is benefiting from your light without contributing to your journey? You do not need to answer out loud, but feel with honesty, because you already know the answer. Deep down you have already known for some time. What was lacking was permission to recognize without guilt and without judgment. Now you have this permission. The next step is yours. And if you want to continue deepening this work of discernment and energetic protection, the channel has specific content on how to clean your field, how to strengthen your spiritual frontiers, and how to attract relations that really elevate you. Subscribe and activate the bell now. because the videos that are coming are exactly for those who are in this process of awakening, of recognition, and of real transformation. You will not want to miss them. Share this video with that person who you know is passing through a similar situation. Sometimes the greatest help we can give to someone who is confused in a draining relation is simply to show that there exists another way to see. Send this video. Without needing explanation, the content will speak for itself. And in the comments, tell me, after everything you saw today, what was the most important insight that arrived? What was the recognition that weighed most? I read every comment that arrives here, and what you write can be exactly what another person is needing to read, to have the courage to act. Until the next video, and remember, you are not obligated to be the source for everyone. You have the right to shine for those who deserve to be near your light. Protect that, with love, with firmness, with faith. God is on your side in this choice.